Oh, hi. It's good to see you all. I've been tasked this afternoon with speaking to you about the creative process, particularly the way that that creative process looks and feels and sounds inside the brain of an artist. And I've been asked to do that within the theme of redefining the norm, and in just a couple of minutes before playing you a song that I've written specifically for this TEDxSFU event that in some way relates to the theme of my discussion. And in order to accomplish all of this in that length of time, I'm going to need to paint with some broad brushes and draw some possibly uncomfortable binaries between things like artist and other, and creative person and non-creative person. Everybody is creative in their very own way. I get that, and I'm going to skip right over it in the interest of efficiency. And even more problematically, I'm going to do so with the assumption that anybody else's creative process is anything like mine. But nevertheless, there's a few claims that I'm very comfortable making today about the creative process of artists versus everybody else. And those are, one, that it's a process, which I think is something that is a little bit more neglected and a little bit more forgotten about than we tend to think. The second is that that process is constant, and the third is an entirely unprovable claim about the different relationships that artists have with the notion of absurdity. With almost no exceptions, any piece of art, whether it's a song or a story or a poem or a painting, is presented to the public once it reaches its final form. And while I'm thrilled with the fact that you don't get to see my works in progress until I declare them complete, and I think that that's well within the rights of an artist, it nevertheless gives the impression that this work of art came out of me as is. And that's not the case ever. For me, a song, before it ever reaches the public, is something that has kind of lived with me and changed for a very long time. And even after it is presented to the public, it will probably continue to grow and change. So while the version of a song that I make that you hear, or if I do my job right, you might hear thousands of times, is something for me that has been ever-changing. So I might write a song, I might work on it myself for a while, I might bring it to the band, we might workshop it, then we might record a demo, and then we'll probably workshop it a little bit more, and then we'll make the proper recording, and then I'll have that mixed, and I'll have that mastered, and I'll have that manufactured. But what comes to you is a 3-minute recording of something that literally was an event that took place between me and my band in a studio just once, and it may never ever happen that way again. So you'll of course recognize that all I'm talking about here is Marxist commodity fetishism, but in that circumstance, the life of a commodity ends once it reaches the consumer, whereas the life of a song, for me, continues to grow and develop all through time. I think there is this sort of broad cultural misnomer that artists get into becoming artists because they don't have as much interest in working as hard as everybody else does. And as evidence of this, I would just present the fact that in times of my life where I've had to seek more typical work, and I've had to book time off of work to go on tour, which is one of the most exhausting things that a human can do to themselves, I'm always greeted back at work with some variation of the question, how was your vacation? And what I want to pitch in response to that is that not only does the artist's creative process not begin at 9 and end at 5, but it can't. It's relentless, and it's absolutely continuous, and it never stops, potentially even while we're sleeping. I went to see a talk by another local songwriter named Dan Mangan a couple of years ago, and what he had to say about his involvement with art was that he felt like every day of his life for the past couple of years had been a Saturday. It's just that he has to work on Saturdays. And this is, I think, where we get into being able to differentiate between artists and hobbyists and purely creative people versus people who might have a reputation for being able to come up with creative solutions to problems in the workplace. And that is that artists are always searching for that sort of inspiration, that piece of creativity. But I think even searching might not be the right word, because that implies that it's an active process. And sometimes it's an active process, sometimes it's excruciatingly active, But the thing that I have noticed with many of my friends is that it doesn't come with the ability to turn off. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is absurdity. And that is to suggest that maybe that unknowable other thing, that place where inspiration waits, the thing that gives some people a greater tendency towards artistry than others, that gives some people the ability to find a seed for brilliance where other people might see nothing, is in the different relationship that artists tend to craft with the notion of absurdity. Particularly the way that I see artists react to absurdity, maybe with a measure of glee instead of a little bit of horror, and the way that artists can see absurd things in things that might appear normal to other people, or that sort of dark way that seriousness can become playful, or that the mundane can feel ecstatic, and maybe, you know, most significantly, the way that the extent to which some people will go in order to live a purely creative existence that can seem so absurd to so many people can feel entirely normal for the artist. And with that, I'm now going to play you at least a little piece of a song that I've written largely over the last couple of days about some of the places and ways in which myself and friends of mine have continued to find inspiration to continue doing what we're doing. And I'm extremely uncomfortable presenting you with an unfinished piece of work, but I hope that it goes some way to proving my point in that if you ever hear this song again, it will no doubt sound completely different than it does today, likely the result of many, many hours of very hard, completely invisible, and hopefully very absurd work. I found everything I needed in the holes we kicked into the ceiling, the terrifying total of every decision I've made. You all said I'd regret it in the morning, as if by this time it doesn't feel normal. I've never made an error I'm unlikely to make again. I don't want to run towards the exit, but it's all that's on my mind. Didn't want to leave it all to chance, so I left it all behind. I've been sick, and I've been drunk, and I've been tired. And I've been inspired. Look again, you had everything you needed. Why succumb to disease when you can beat it? Sure, chaos is pretty, you'll be dead by 30 this way. Well, I don't want to run towards the exit, but it's all that's on my mind. I didn't want to leave it all to chance, so I left it all behind. I've been sick and I've been drunk and I've been tired. And I've been inspired. Thanks very much.